Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Dave, and today we're talking about trading options for income with SPY. Why? Well, this is the go-to ETF for options. This is one with the most open interest, meaning it has a huge volume, lots of contracts flying around, expirations Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's like the proving grounds for trading options with ETFs. Now, it's not for everyone, so if you want to run out of the room right now and go watch some reality television, I don't blame you. But if you want to watch an average-looking, semi-intelligent white guy talk about options, which is a great Friday night, then this might be the one for you. So, if that is what you're looking for, please stick around. Whoop. SPY is an S&P 500 index fund offered from Spider. There are others like VOO, and that's my buy and hold S&P 500 index fund that I just kind of sit on. But if I'm doing options, SPY is where it's at. Why? Because it's got a really tight bid and ask prices because of all that open interest. It makes it really easy to trade options against it, and there's all these expiration dates, and it's wonderful to work with. So this is kind of the no-brainer if you just want to focus on options in one area. SPY. The next nice perk about just focusing your attention on trading SPY options is that you can ignore what's going on in Coca-Cola over here and Pfizer over here. And if Pfizer lays an egg, it's not going to hurt you too bad because it's going to be in the S&P 500 index and have 499 other stocks to back it up to make sure it's doing all right. So you're going to be focused on big macro trends like a war in Europe or a pandemic, something like that could really affect SPY. But in general, right, you're not going to have to focus on the granular stuff that's going on in individual stocks, and that should simplify the number of variables that you have going on when it comes to trading options. And the third thing worth talking about right now to scare a few people away is that there is a little bit of a barrier for entry to do what we're talking about today, which is selling puts and calls. Because if you want to buy one contract right now, if you want to buy 100 shares of SPY right now, it's going to cost you $45,000. You'd buy that and sell the covered call and collect $450, right? $800, something like that. So not everybody has that lying around, right? So that causes a barrier. Just like if you want to sell a put, you're going to be in the same scenario because you need the collateral, right? So it's not for everyone. Typically, if you're just out of school learning about options, this is not what you're going to be focused on. It's going to be later in life when you really want the income for some reason, you build up a pot of money, or you've had really good success as a younger person. But either way, you're going to need some cash in order to make this all work. So why do this? Because it's definitely not for everyone. I do this for income. I have lots of different investments. I'm fortunate that way that I've got real estate investments that pay me income. I've got a bunch of long-term holdings in stocks. I've got business income. I've got my job and things like that. So I'm fortunate that way, and I decided to take a portion of the income that I've brought home and stick it into options trading with the objective of paying off low-interest debt, right? Mortgages, right? So I've talked about that on this channel, and I think that makes a lot of sense because income from options is different enough from long-term holdings in the stock market. It doesn't really quite follow the same pattern. So, and it's a little bit more predictable in my opinion. So I have this pot of money and I'm using that to generate income. Now the argument is going to be total market return, and that's definitely a good argument, but I still feel like it's different enough that it's justifiable. And if I can meet my goal of paying off that low interest debt that I took for this exact reason, then I'm meeting my objective. So it makes sense. And that's why I'm doing this. So how can we improve our chances of success trading SPY options? Well, one thing I think you should do is have a strategy that's written down on paper and a roadmap that you can kind of follow. It doesn't mean you can't deviate from it, but in general, this is the path that we will follow. And I say this because every variable that we can eliminate is going to increase our chances. So for example, if you know the return that you're targeting and you put that in all your formulas, then you're going to have a better chance of success. That's the idea, right? Phil Hellmuth, the bad boy of poker. He's like a white guy, looks like your neighbor. I don't know if that makes him a bad boy or not, but he was a great poker player, and he wrote a book called Play Poker Like the Pros. I remember reading this, and his whole thing was about calculating pot odds, folding, mucking every bad hand, and only playing about 10 good hands, right? Aces, queens, kings, suited connectors, and a few others, right? So he wasn't doing anything dramatic. He wasn't reading the guy across from there, but he definitely wasn't playing hunches all the time either. He was just playing good, solid poker. That's where we start when we're talking about options as well. That's going to improve our chances of having success. So get it down on paper and work through it. If you watch my other videos, you probably see me do it quite a bit. This is the best thing that could happen, and this is the worst thing that can happen. And if you know these outcomes or these potential outcomes, you're going to feel a lot better before you go into this and start trading SPY options. One other thing worth mentioning is QYLD, since I did a video on it a couple of weeks ago. So you might say, why not just buy that and sit back and relax? Well, I think my strategy, which doesn't take that much time and effort, we can still give you the 12% that QYLD does, but with more protection for your basis. So that's why, maybe it's just arrogance, but I think I can outperform QYLD, keep my money, and get a 12% return. So let's talk strategy, because that's what this really boils down to. And for me, I never want to own SPY with this pot of money. That's my goal, because a big market correction is the biggest problem for us, right? If the stock goes up, that's not a problem whether you buy the shares and sell the covered call or if you sell a put. So I'm going to protect myself from the downside the best way I can. Now, my goal for this particular pot of money is 12%, if I haven't already mentioned that. 1% a month. So the way I'm going to set this up is I'm going to sell a put out of the money as far as I can to collect 1% out about 30 days, monthly options. And I'll collect that 1%. And if I do this all year long, then that's 12%. I did just fine. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work out that way. And just so we're all on the same page, this is what it would look like. This is on Fidelity. So I'm selling to open one put contract out a month, which would be April 25th as of the date of this video, with a strike price of $434. You can crunch the numbers, but this is going to pay you off about $478. And that's just over 1% for those 30 days or so that you own this. And if you take this out a year, that's the 12% we just talked about. So we sold our first put. We're off to the races. Good job, everyone. We got our 1%, and that's in our pocket right now. Now, a few different things can happen. We've always talked about these, right? If SPY takes off, right, shoots to the moon, well, then you could probably buy to close this early and collect the majority of that premium and turn around and do it again. That's probably what I would do. Now, if you want to just milk it and wait, knowing that this is a pretty secure trade because it's really out of the money at this point, you can just let it ride. But I would probably close it out and repeat the same process and collect another 1% earlier than I expected. Now, if it trades sideways, of course, we can just sit on it and wait for it to expire again, or close it out near expiration and do the same thing, collect another 1%. So those are both good scenarios for us. Now, if SPY starts trending down towards our initial strike price that we sold this put against, that's not a bad scenario, actually. That's almost perfect, because we should be able to collect the majority of our premium and close it out, or it might expire, right? Either way, we're going to be really close to that initial strike price, which means we can sell it again, sell it for the next month at an even lower strike price and feel pretty good about that, right? Now, if it does correct, like significantly, let's say we sold this, again, 4% out of the money, plus we got the 1%, and let's say SPY drops 7% this month. Well, it's not great, right? Because we were 4% out of the money, we got 1%, it dropped 7, right? So we had 5 altogether, we gave up 7, so we're essentially down 2%. So this is where you have a decision to make. Do you want to play hot potato and let it get put to you and then try to get rid of it right away? Or do you want to close it out and try to play it at a lower strike price? That's up to you. I tend to do the wheel strategy with this, but I completely understand if you don't want to have it put to you and you want to close it out and, again, try to get it at a lower strike. So that's a decision that you kind of have to make as part of your roadmap. But in general, if it's just a little bit under there, because I have more dry powder, which I hate that saying, by the way, but because I could buy another one and average down, I would probably allow it to be put to me, and then I start selling the covered call. So let's look at the case where you decide to accept assignment, meaning you picked up the shares, right? So let's not forget, it dropped 7%, but you were in about 5%. So you're down about 2% right now. The shares have been assigned to you, and you turn around and you sell the covered call. Well, where would I pick? I would pick to sell it at the initial strike price of that put. So I don't want to lose any money on my basis. So I want to accept selling these shares back at the price that I was purchasing them at, because I want to maximize this and I want to play hot potato. I want to toss it back to them essentially if I can. And that would be the first scenario where the SPY rebounds, right? And you collect, it's closer to the money now. So you, maybe instead of 1%, you're able to collect 1.3%, for example, just to make up some numbers. So if it does climb back up there and it gets called away, well, that's great. Now you're up 2.3% after 2 months. Perfect. Trade sideways. Again, this is just fine because we're going to repeat the same process again, and we're going to collect another 1.3% at the end of for the third month. So both good, right? The only one that we're, again, having a problem with is if we have a true correction at this point, where it goes down another 5%. So 12% from where we started this initial process. And that's actually what we call a correction. That means it ain't coming back, folks, right? That means this is the new value of SPY. That's the definition of a correction. It's corrected now. So with that, well, then you have a decision to make. So how are you going to handle this if you have a true correction? So you actually have lots of options here. They might not all sound great, but first thing you can do is sell a call at the original assignment price and collect a smaller premium. You could sell a little bit further out and get a bigger premium if you want. But you're definitely not going to make that 12%, right? Your annualized amount might be 2% at this point, but hopefully it slowly comes back and you start increasing your premiums over time. So that's one option. You can, and that way you don't reduce your basis at all, right? You could also sell a call at the money to get the biggest premium possible, like QYLD does. But in that case, it has very likely that it could get called away from you, or you'd have to close it out, right? So it just depends on the volatility there if you want to go that route. But that's not one I usually choose myself because I want to protect my basis. And the third one there is you could sell a call and collect the 1%, just like we did with the put, and try to capture as much upside as possible. So again, you could sell an out of the money call option about 3 to 4% above what the current price is and manage that position the best you can. And you might have, that might mean that you have to, buy to close that position at different times, and you might have to pay for a little bit of intrinsic value as it moves up. But if it does not, if it doesn't climb too quickly, if it only goes up 1, 2, 3%, you're going to be able to collect the majority of it. And this is what I would typically do. I would collect as much as I could to the upside without, ruining my basis and still hitting my goal. And the final thing you could do, which is another thing that I might do, is just average down, right, and sell additional puts if you believe that the market is strong enough and you feel comfortable with doing that. So those are all different ways to go about it, but typically what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell a call, again, to collect that 1% as far out of the money as I can, as to maintain my basis and control my position. And of course, if you are concerned about SPY and you want to add a protective put, that's another whole part of your game plan that you could add. So in that case, just a couple different ideas is one, you can still target 12% overall return, but you just sell your put closer to the current stock price and give up the additional premium that you're collecting to buy a put that you feel gives you an acceptable level of protection. Right? And that could be, with the same expiration, obviously that's a credit spread, but you don't have to do that. You could buy it out 2 months. Right? So, and this is an example here. So imagine selling the put you had before and then collecting 1.5% instead of 1% every month. That gives you an extra 1% to invest into a protective put. So use that 1%, or about $478, right, to protect yourself over a period of time. So what you see here is I'm, buying to open one put, May 20th expiration, about 2 months out at 415 strike, right? So if there is a significant correction, well, I do have a protective put in place. So this type of planning I just think is really important. And if you think this out, it will really reap benefits down the road. Now, if this is getting confusing and overwhelming too, I have plenty of videos on my channel if this feels confusing. They go over some more of the basics. So go back and watch those, and then you can come back and this will probably make more sense. So I will link some of those examples below that can help. So those are the basics of my basic strategy when it comes to trading SPY options. Now here's an example of one that I have open right now just to show you that yes, I do this one. This is a good scenario, one where SPY was at $444 a share and it's since gone up to $452 since when I purchased this on 3/21. It's a $425 put. So stage one, right? So in this case, I've collected 52% of the total premium already after 1 week. And this is one where I can close it out even this next week. We'll see how the week starts working for me. So yeah, I could have even closed this one out today, honestly. But it doesn't always work out this way like we talked about. So we want to be prepared. But that's just one example of how this might work out. Stage one, selling a put. So if I talk through that too quickly or something just doesn't make sense, please just ask me down below and I'll be happy to give you my opinion. Then you can go verify if it's right. It's up to you. But, trading options like this isn't for everyone. I would actually recommend if you don't need the income, don't do this. Invest for the long term, buying hold good ETFs and great stocks. But if you do have a reason, like if you've got a mortgage with some really low interest and you want to do what I'm doing and put some in a pot, trade something like this against SPY options, well, all the more power to you. But again, any questions, ask down below. Now, I really appreciate you watching, taking some time with me. If you wouldn't mind, if you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Have a great night. Whoop.